Thank you very much for joining us. Today we have a very serious topic to discuss. We're going to be talking about youth suicide. And my guest in studio here is Dr. Alex Karydi. She's the program director for the South Carolina Youth Suicide Prevention Initiative. And I want to welcome you to the program. How are you doing?
Oh, good. Thank you for having us.
Great to have you here. And we're going to be talking about youth suicide. There's never a time to not talk about it. It's such a serious issue. I know we had September. That is September Awareness Month. But any time is a good time to really address the problem. Introduce yourself to our audience, if you would.
No, of course. So we are a 100% grant-funded program out of the Department of Mental Health here in South Carolina. And our initiative is over the course of the next 4 years, we are trying to decrease the suicide rate in South Carolina between the ages from 10 to 24 by 20%. And the way we're going to be doing that is really reaching out communities to bring awareness and decrease stigma associated with suicide.
Do you see the suicide rate just rising in the last few years?
So, unfortunately, yes. So when you look over the last 30 years in the United States specifically, we see the suicide rates increasing steadily. And there's many different reasons for that. There's many different factors of why that happens. But we've also seen certain rises in certain age ranges. In South Carolina, we've seen a rise between the ages of 10 to 12-year-olds. That's gone up as well. So we're trying to figure all that out. A lot of the work that we do is also do research and evaluation. So when we go into a community and do work, we also want to evaluate the work that we're doing to make sure we're on track and we're doing the right thing, and to actually see who's really affected and how those programs that we might develop are helping or maybe not as helpful as we'd want them to be. So we look at all of those different things.
Okay. Do we know exactly why, by suicide, of all the other types of death, why suicide?
Suicide is a very complicated, multifaceted death or issue. There's many factors involved when we're looking at suicide that we are not are still quite unknown to us. So it's very layers. We're starting to peel the layers off. It's starting to better understand what it is. But it's usually a combination of multiple things coming together that makes the person feel that they can no longer deal with the pain that's tormenting them inside, and that is one of the ways they're going to deal with it. Is one of the ways they're going to deal with that pain is to kill that part of them. Mm-hmm. Killing that part often leads to killing the whole. So we're trying to better understand that process, but it's very, very complicated. You know, it goes from thought process to behavior to social environment. It's really a huge multitude of things that we have to look at and be aware of in order to treat.
One thing I'm beginning to find as I bring this topic up, more and more people are being affected by suicide. Mm-hmm. I have so many friends now that can relate to the issue of suicide, knowing someone. I never thought in my lifetime I would know of someone that committed suicide.
Suicide is a real issue in communities. It affects everyone. I think, and it might be a bias because I work in this field, but I very rarely go into a room where I don't meet someone who's either lost someone to suicide or a survivor of suicide, someone who survived an attempt. So it affects all of us. We just don't talk about it. I think maybe what's happening more and more now, which is making us a little bit more aware, is that there's more of a conversation happening around it. As we become more aware of an issue, whether it's a mental health issue or a disease or a social issue, the conversations start to happen. And this is what we're really trying to do here in South Carolina with suicide. We're really wanting to get people motivated and to look inside themselves. Where are you with suicide? Are you ready to have this conversation? Mm-hmm. Because the more we talk about it, the sooner we can start really working on breaking down those barriers that are preventing people from getting help.
Right. Yeah. Now, talk to us about some of the common warning signs, if there are any.
So when we're looking at youth in particular, like youth and young adults, some of the warning signs that we might see is drug and alcohol use, grades dropping. So you have a kid that's been doing pretty well, and then all of a sudden you see behavioral changes, and they're isolating, they seem hopeless, or they seem sad, depressed. They can't really bounce up. Something bad happens, but they can't bounce up from it. They tend to get stuck in it. A relationship issue, breakups. They start saying things like, I don't want to live anymore. I wish I was never born. Things like that. So it could be things that they say, things that they do. They give gifts away. I lost my best friend from suicide, and I was 13 years old, and I gave him a necklace. It was a cross that I had given to him. He said he needed some not good luck, but he wanted some protection. And so I had given him this gift, and a week before he died, he'd given it back to me. He's like, I think you're going to need this more than I am.
Oh, wow.
And died shortly after. And, now that I know about suicide and what it looks like, I'm like, wow, if I was 13 and knew that then, maybe life would have been different for me and my friend. I might know my friend still today. So I think there's a lot of things that kind of happen with someone that kind of warns us. Now, warning signs don't mean the person's going to attempt suicide. So just because someone is exhibiting warning signs or they seem at risk doesn't mean they're doing it, but it could mean that they're thinking about it. And so we want to get a hold of them in that moment as well, so that they don't move on to maybe acting out on those feelings and thoughts.
Okay. Mm-hmm. If you come across someone that you think has one of those warning signs, what should a person do?
Okay. It's a very good question. Number one, don't be afraid to ask them what's going on. A lot of people are very fearful that if they talk about suicide or ask someone if they're suicidal, that it's going to give them the idea, that they're going to implant it in their brain. That's not true. That's a myth that's been existing in our community. You can't make someone think about doing something, just like I can't make you give me your paycheck, because I talk about it.
True.
Right? It's the same thing with youth and young adults and adults, is if you're feeling something and you're honest and non-judgmental and open about it, it brings space for that person to say, I don't need to be ashamed about this. I see that you see me. I see that you see some things wrong with me and you want to know more about me. And so it gives an opportunity to release that shame that person might be holding on to in order to talk about it. The other thing is, I tell people, stay calm. It's very scary. I think for many, many people in different fields, even for clinicians, I'm a clinician by trade, and, it's always scary to hear someone say they might not want to live because you're in panic. This is a life and death situation, and now you've been pulled into it, so you're worried. Mm-hmm. So stay calm, be non-judgmental, stay focused on what the person's experienced. Don't try and find a solution for them. Say, you'll get over that breakup. There's millions of fish in the sea. That was just one more fish. We don't try and find solutions for them. We try to get them to the right help. So we ask them directly. I noticed that some of these things are happening. I noticed you said some of these things. It makes me concerned that you might be thinking about hurting yourself, or that you might be thinking of killing yourself. And if they say yes, then we get them help. We call 911. We get them to mental health. We call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. We give them an intervention to start getting help, and we support them through that the decision-making process. The other thing that I really try and let people know, don't keep it a secret. Because a lot of people, when someone says, yeah, I've been suicidal, I've been thinking about it, but don't tell anyone. I promise I won't do anything. If you don't tell anyone, thank you for helping me, but don't, this is too big of an issue to keep that a secret, and that person's too important to keep that secret. That's what I tell people. I'm like, you're too important. I get that you might be scared, but you're too important to me. And there are things that will help you. So this can't be kept a secret.
Even if they give you that guilt trip, like, you promised. Yeah. What kind of a friend are you?
Yeah. Well, you say, I know I promise, but I love you.
Okay.
I love you, and I want what's best for you. And this is what's best right now. What's best is to get you the right kind of help, because I want you to be here for a lot longer. Yes. I need you here for a lot longer, And so, because people, even adults do this, they'll say, don't tell anyone, or don't worry about it. It's just something. It's like, no, I'm worried about you. I care about you, and I want you to get to the right place to get help.
Now, let's speak to the person who might feel suicidal right now, feels maybe closed inside and feels like there's no one who cares, there's no hope inside, and they're dealing or battling with an issue. Speak to that person right now. Maybe they don't know who to call or where to go.
Yeah. We want you around. We need you to want to be here. You know, we care about you. You're not alone. We're working so hard to reach you, to get to you so that you can get all the help that you need. If you're feeling this way, there are multiple people to call right now or text even to get the support that you need. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is a wonderful starting point to get the help you need. You have 24/7 counselors that will either use text messaging if you're more comfortable with text messaging, or on the phone to talk you through this, to get you to the right resources, the right support system. They're there for you, waiting right now if you need them. And you can call them. The number is 1-800-273-8255. And it's confidential. It's they are skilled in dealing with all kinds of issues, all kinds of difficulties, and so they will be there for you. And then you have therapists and counselors within our community that are ready to help and support you through this process as well. We are working on bringing awareness on the different communities and faith-based communities that also are trying to learn more about this issue so they can be present for you and be available to you. So I would like people to know that everyone's working so hard because we care so much and want to see you live your life fully, because you deserve it. You absolutely deserve a good life.
And also, one more thing, speak to a family member or a friend who is left behind, and what happens in the event that there is a suicide. Just speak to that for just a moment, because a lot of people don't think about the impact that has on people's lives.
It's an incredible ripple effect in a community, and it's a very painful death because it's confusing. There's a lot of confusion when you lose someone to suicide, because you're left with survivor's guilt. You're left like, why didn't I not know that this was going to happen? Why didn't I not see this? Am I not a good enough friend, or am I not a good enough mom, or am I not a good enough so and so? We start to question who we are and how we may have failed that person. But we can only do the best with what we have. And until we are able to have these conversations with each other and really support each other as a community through this, it's going to be very hard for people to learn how to heal. So I would tell families and friends that you have gone through something that a lot of people don't understand. But there are places, again, for you to seek support and understanding and the right kind of tools to get you through this healing process. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention in the state of South Carolina has multiple groups that are grieving family members and friends that help support those families. They have people on staff that they themselves have experienced that type of loss and know how to connect with someone. So there's a lot of people out there that understand that when you lose someone from suicide, it's shocking. It's painful.
Yes.
Because it's like, how did this happen? But we want to support that person to really show them, like, we get it. Like, we get it's confusing because there is no we can't start defending all the reasons that could be. It is confusing, and it's hard to get that person to the right support group.
All right. Dr. Alex Karydi, Program Director for the South Carolina Youth Suicide Prevention Initiative. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, you have an open door invitation. Anytime we can help you, let us know.
Thank you.
Okay?
And thank you for caring enough about making this an issue that's out there, and we're having a conversation about it. I really am grateful for this. Thank you.